You got the Mindhunter thing behind you there, huh?
Yes. Recognize this?
That's a very
Thank you.
kind word.
Thank you for joining me today on The Mighty Dragon.
Thank you for
Today,
asking.
yes, thank you. Thank you so much to actor Gareth Williams for joining me. How are you, Mr. Williams? How are you today?
Never better, thanks. And you?
Yes, not too bad, not too bad. Rather frazzled after a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, but otherwise I'm okay. I just wanted to ask you a few questions, obviously about Mindhunter, but also about how you got into acting. Where did it all begin for you?
Oh, wow. That could be an epic answer, but um, I was one of those. I think I always wanted to, but my parents weren't, very steeped in culture, and so they didn't recognize it, and I didn't know any better, so I just thought it was something I had an appreciation for. But there was a moment in I was the only person in my family in any direction that went to college, and their attitude about it was like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever.
Oh, that's so good.
Their attitude was like, learn a trade, learn how to
Yeah,
blade bricks or something.
yeah.
And so I went to college, and I picked a major, photography, and I thought, well, that's going to be easy enough. I can take my marginal artistic skills and earn a living that way. But when I found myself flunking out of all of the courses related to photography
Yeah.
and getting like straight A's and everything else, I thought I better change my major. And I was walking across the campus. Now, this was at the time of Mork and Mindy. I don't even think, wonder if you
Oh, I
know.
love that. Yep, I loved it.
So there was this odd guy on the quad, dressed like that, kind of looked like that, and wearing the wide rainbow suspenders and odd clothes, and I, out of character, I went up and I asked. He was building this wooden structure, and I went up and asked him what he was doing, and he said, "I'm building a set." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, for a play. We'll build it here and we'll break it down and put it in the theater, and then they'll do a play on it." And I picked up a hammer to help him. And I know this sounds so sentimental and maudlin, but I looked at the hammer and I knew what I was doing with the rest of my life. That
Oh my
that
God. Oh, that's made me feel a bit like chills down the spine sort of thing. One of those complete life-changing moments for you.
It was definitely epiphanal. It was like,
Yeah.
now at the time, I didn't think acting was what I was going to be doing. I thought I'd be, I knew how to bang a nail straight and read blueprints, and I'd build sets and maybe learn how to design them. But I just knew that theater was going to be, I don't know how, but somehow in my brain, it was like the Times Square zipper,
Yeah, yeah.
it just went, this is what you're doing with your life.
Superb. So the start of your theatrical career, I read that you worked with Laurence Fishburne, Marisa Tomei, Lily Taylor, James Gandolfini, one of my favorites. What was this like? What was this experience like?
Well, that wasn't actually the beginning. That was actually a ways down the road. The beginnings were in Florida. I have to say that. By the way, there's a Victoria Thomas who's a casting director here. She cast me in True Detective,
Is
actually.
That's hilarious. Is she my doppelganger as well, or?
If you were African American, yes.
Oh, right, okay. So,
Um,
okay.
she's a sweetheart and a really terrific casting director. She casts
Yeah.
massive projects, but so every time I see the name Victoria, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Victoria Thomas. But what was the question? Oh, the beginnings.
Yes.
I started off in Florida, and I don't know what it is, but from the moment I said I wanted to be in theater, it literally opened its arms in every way. At first, it was college, of course, but it was almost as if they opened the door and said, "Where have you been? We've been waiting for you." And when I decided to become an actor, which was kind of a slow, it was incremental. There was another epiphanal moment I had in a play, working on the pin rail for Man of La Mancha at the Burt Reynolds Theater. And I watched this guy, David Holliday, and I can't sing, and I can't read music, and I don't play an instrument or anything. So musicals didn't hold a great deal of interest for me, and I would kind of check out. But then after a while, because you can't leave your post and I had nothing to do, I started watching this actor, David Holliday, and I was amazed that he could put the audience wherever he wanted, night after night, same spot, exactly. And I went, this is an equation. This is a mathematic equation. A and B will equal C. And I went, I can learn how to do that. So I said, I'm going to be an actor. That was like the moment I decided to do that.
Okay.
And from the moment I, said I'm going to be an actor, it was like, Gareth, here's Burt Reynolds, here's Carol Burnett, this is
Wow.
Elizabeth Taylor. I was introduced to like
Oh my gosh.
these massive stars. I found myself on stage with Martin Sheen, who had just
Oh wow.
done Apocalypse Now, and so that had a real it was that experience with Martin Sheen. He rented out the Paramount Theater in Palm Beach, Florida. He had just done Apocalypse Now, and so he wanted to show the cast and crew of, we were doing Mr. Roberts. And so I sat like 2 or 3 people away from Martin Sheen while he was telling stories about doing that film. So then cut to a few years later, I'm doing an evening of 2 one-acts, and there were 2 people in each one, a man and a woman, and the other couple in the other scene were African American, and I got along really well with the guy who was in the scene, and I found myself sitting next to him at one point, and we were just chatting about favorite movies or whatever, and Apocalypse Now came up, and he goes, I was in that, and I said, oh, who were you? And I was expecting to hear, oh, I was in the art, the R&R thing with the, whatever, the helicopter came down.
Yeah.
He goes, I was the kid on the boat. And I went, oh my God, this is Laurence Fishburne.
Amazing.
And he would, but when he was in Apocalypse Now, he was a boy, he was 14.
Yeah.
So this is a big old grown man, and I didn't put the 2 together, but then we became, friends after that. So
I'm sure I read that he lied about his age to get into Apocalypse Now. No one knew
it
he was
makes sense, yeah. Which is a
Yeah.
good thing, because he went from 14 to 17 during the filming of that thing.
Right. Wow. My gosh. And I must ask about James Gandolfini.
I have a couple of funny stories about Jim. I was directing this showcase in New York of a play called Luann Hampton Laverty Oberlander, and when you do a showcase like that, equity rules, the union rules, you have to hold these open calls. And so we had 2 days of open calls. I think we saw 100 actors in 2 days, 50 each day. And we didn't cast anybody except this one person who came in that was of interest. And he did the strangest thing. He walked in and he sat down and he asked if he could change his shoes. And I thought to myself, were you late? Like, what an odd thing to do. But
Yeah.
literally the second he walked through the door, my first wife was in it, and I leaned over to her and I said, if this guy can walk and talk at the same time, I'm casting him.
Yeah.
And he was brilliant, and it was Jim Gandolfini.
Oh my gosh.
He was mowing lawns in New Jersey at the time. That was his first play.
Really?
Yeah, first
Oh
play he ever
God.
did. And we became fast friends. I mean, we hung out almost exclusively for a few years after that.
Oh my gosh, what a fantastic actor he was. Wow, he was something special, right?
Yeah. He was a
And
special person. I mean, he was really, it sort of dragged into the work. He was really, truly a special guy. I used to work in a restaurant in New York called Miss Ruby's Cafe. And he worked in a restaurant called Steak Frites, which was on Union Square. And on his nights off, he would come into my place and we'd hang out when it was slow, and I'd go into his place, and he was a bartender there. So I'd just hang out at his bar. And he came into Miss Ruby's one night, and he goes, Gareth, I got this movie. And I was like, oh, fantastic. And he goes, yeah, I just stand around in the background and scratch my belly. It's with Dennis Hopper and Christian Slater and Chris Walken. I was like, damn, I'd like to stand around and scratch my belly behind those guys. And so I went by myself to see the movie in Times Square, one of those Times Square movie theaters. And sure enough, he was great, and it was a true romance. And And he was, he was standing around and he was, he was a Goomba, hey, how you doing? This and that. And then there was the scene where he beat up Patricia Arquette. And in that theater, I went, he's now a star. He's now on
Right.
his way.
Yeah. Wow. There's so many memories of James Gandolfini for you. So
Oh, yeah,
what an
yeah, yeah.
wonderful experience. In terms of the characters that you've played, what's kind of thought, oh, I must play that character?
In the future, you mean?
Or in the past, what has intrigued you about characters enough to want to portray them yourself?
Getting cast.
Getting cast. So it doesn't matter about the character. You will
No,
just
no, no. It
turn it
absolutely does.
around.
And I don't mean to seem cynical, but it's like, do you prefer Victoria or Vicky, by the way?
Anything. I answer to anything.
Victoria, I wish I had James's career. I wish I had, Holt McCallany's career.
Yeah.
I've had to take things that fall off the truck. The only thing I can say is that I've been extremely lucky with that. It's like peppered throughout my career of almost 40 years. I have had to do the odd job where I'm kind of cringing, going, "Oh, I can't believe I'm doing this." The sort of Saved by the Bell kind of,
Right.
job.
Okay. Yeah.
I never did that show, but I just mean that kind of, where you're like, what am I doing with my life kind of moment.
Yeah.
There have been very few of them and peppered throughout, but most of what I've done, I have to pinch myself. I mean,
Yeah.
I found myself, working with two-time back-to-back Academy Award-winning actor Tom Hanks on the near seminal limited series From the Earth to the Moon, playing an
Wow.
astronaut, the first astronaut to drive a car on the moon. And I'm standing out in the desert next to Dave Scott, who walked on the moon. And I'm looking up at the moon and I went, "You walked on that." And he was like, yeah, that's what we did. I said, but you walked on that thing up there. And he was like, yeah, it's like what you guys did. I said, oh, don't compare what you did to what we're doing around here. It's like, you
Incredible.
walked on you're one of 12 people that walked on a moon.
Yeah. Yeah. So, gosh, Tom Hanks, what do you learn from an actor like that?
Oh, you learn from everything and everyone. And that's what
Yeah.
I mean is, if I've been very fortunate because I've been able to be around people like Marisa Tomei and Jim Gandolfini and Laurence Fishburne, which, those guys are, I consider to be really my peers. I was very lucky. I
Yeah.
got in a theater company in New York, for instance, called Naked Angels. And it was rife with, at that time they were burgeoning careers, but some of them were full blown and many of them were becoming full blown very quickly. In the theater company was like Rob Morrow and Gina Gershon and Nancy Travis and Marisa Tomei, Lily Taylor, Matt Dillon, Timothy Hutton. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like just, and some of them were members, some of them weren't, but these were the people that were populated that orbit.
Yeah.
And so I consider a lot of those people to be my peers. But then, Tom Hanks is in another orbit, and
Yeah.
and recently I worked with, having mentioned True Detective, that was Victoria Thomas cast me in. I worked, I was standing toe to toe with Mahershala Ali, the second back-to-back two-time Academy Award-winning actor that
Gosh.
I worked with. I have to pinch myself half the time going, how did this happen? But in terms of like
Yeah.
looking at a role and saying, do I want to play this or do I not want to? I don't always have that luxury. I wish I did, but I don't.
I see. I must ask you about Mindhunter and a huge success, rumors of another season. What makes it so special, in your opinion?
David Fincher.
Yeah.
But that's that, yes, all roads lead back to David Fincher, but it's also, Eric Messerschmidt. I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation of his last name, but he's the cinematographer on that. And, he just won the Academy Award for Mank. And, the people that David Fincher populates around him, it's just an extraordinary bunch of people. Mindhunter was like, I don't know if you know this about David Fincher, but he typically will do 20 to 25 takes for every setup. I mean, it drives many people to distraction. I personally love it, and I feel like you can get into a stride and find a certain groove or a pocket or something, whereas other actors feel like everything dried up after the third take. but
Right.
it's time consuming. And so there's, I mean, that is, how do I, when you're called to set, you know that until you're released from set, you're going to be working.
Right.
And so and it's just this incredible group of people, cast, crew, production, who just put their heads down and are determined to make quality, make everything live up to a certain standard and certain quality.
Right.
And it's really
Yeah.
compelling. I mean, I think the subject matter, first of all, we're all a little, I listened to a couple of your podcasts and you were talking about with a friend of yours, I guess, that,
Yes.
and you were uh, mentioning things that I think all of us feel. There's something compelling about whether it's right or wrong, the machinations of the evil mind and what makes a guy like Manson or Berkowitz or whatever do what they do. And this is, as you were talking about in that podcast, is that based on I've forgotten his name, the original, Holden.
Oh, Holden Ford.
But the man who actually Holden Ford is representing, who
Oh.
wrote the book.
Oh, yes. I know too. I will put it in here on the video. Sorry.
Um, but that profiling thing that he did of those people is just automatically compelling.
Yes.
It's immediately compelling. We're fascinated with that for some reason. And I saw one of the questions you had listed here. The extent to which they went to cast people who looked like, felt like, seemed
Yeah.
like the serial killers was. I was standing next to the kid who was playing Manson, and I was going, "This is
Oh,
almost freaky,"
isn't
like,
it just chilling? His
yeah.
portrayal of Manson. Gosh.
And they went through 3 actors to play the kid from Texas who worked basically to wrangle kids for the other guy to kill. They went through like 3 actors to finally go, there it is, that's the guy.
Right. My God. Yeah.
And so they go to great lengths. Now, my character, I can't remember how it was couched here, but like Chief Redding, I think you asked,
Yes.
you wanted to ask, like,
What prep did you take?
not
Undertake?
much.
None. Yeah.
No, not none, certainly, but like not a lot, because I didn't look like the guy. They didn't care about that. Or it seemed to. And so I thought to myself, it's about essence. And what attracted me to that role was how much that person, Chief Redding, in real life had to straddle worlds, because he's Caucasian, living in the most densely populated African American city in the country,
Mm.
with tremendous racial strife, yet a great portion of the political structure in Atlanta at that time was African Americans. And so it was a powder keg in terms of, if they get this wrong, if this happened, if that happened, it could
Yeah.
literally just blow up. And then in comes this Holden Ford, who's, this arrogant, let me tell you how to do your job kind of thing. So there was this triangulation of almost having to politically navigate those waters that
Yeah.
I loved. And so there was this, how do I keep this all together in a city
Yeah.
that meant so much to me? And I feel like the actual man, Chief Redding, I believe he carried with him that essence, that it mattered to him. It wasn't just a job. It mattered. All of that mattered to him.
The man of integrity.
And for instance, like the racial issues, I don't know that if I really dug deep, if he was, I look at it this way: any white American, this is such a controversial thing to say, but I believe any white American has an undertone of racial. There's a racist undertone, and by that I mean that I wouldn't want to give up my position as the privilege that I have by virtue of being white in this culture that we're in, so that someone else can enjoy that same position, that same freedom, one of my favorite people on the planet, favorite actors, he's a muse of mine. I also write and I direct, and is a guy named Rolando Boyce, and he's African-American actor. And we have these discussions every once in a while. And I asked, he used to work, he had to drive through Beverly Hills at night, pretty much every night. And I said, what do you think when you drive through Beverly Hills? And he said, well, you know, it depends on what I'm wearing. And I slammed my hand on his bar and I said, see, I've never thought about what I'm wearing anywhere.
That's superb.
I said, I could be naked with my ass painted green, driving through Brentwood, you know, drunk, crash into a house. And I know I'd get a ticket and I know it would cost me money, but I'm not going to get shot.
Yeah.
And I said, these are the things that we, as, you know, the white privilege, we don't want to give that up so that other person can have it if it's taken away from us. And so there's just automatically, there's a certain amount of that comes along in the wake of that. And I'm sure that Chief Redding also just being, I was raised in the South myself in Florida. And, you know, you're in the belly of the beast down there, especially at that time. So that interested me about somebody who was trying his best to be apolitical about it in an environment that was nothing if not racially political.
Yeah. I thought season two was terrific. The whole Wayne Williams thing and all of it was just terrific. I just hope for season 3. I really do. Are there any special behind the scenes memories you can share with us from Mindhunter?
You know, I saw that one too, and I thought,
can you say?
Well, but you know, because there's so many things that if I did, it would risk, you know. But I'll tell you one, and I don't think anybody would mind too much. But
Okay.
I was sitting. I know Holt McCallany from years and years ago in New York. We kind of banged around and together and bounced off of each other here and there. And so I'm sitting in the makeup trailer, and he's on my left, and Jonathan Groff is on my right, who I had just met, and sweetest man on the planet. One of my favorite people I've ever met. Hardworking, really fun. And they were going to have a rap party, which, as it turned out, was the rap party. They thought it was just the season rap party, but that was the last rap party they had, unless they bring it back.
Yeah.
And they were going to have a theme party. And, you know, I'm a hired gun flown in from LA. So I didn't have anything in my suitcase that could fit the bill of like a 1970s theme party. I'm thinking, I don't have bell bottoms. I don't have a Nehru jacket. So I'm sitting there, I'm listening to the conversation because they're on either side of me and it's going, you know, stereo. And then I hear Holt McCallany going, I'm going as Burt Reynolds. And I went, and I thought to myself, you're going as real people? Oh my God, it's getting worse. And then I hear Jonathan Groff go, I'm going as Liza Minnelli.
Superb. Oh my gosh.
So I thought, how do I do this? And a day or two later, I had worked and I didn't take a shower afterwards. So the product in my hair, blah, blah, blah. And you see how white it is. And I looked in the mirror and I went, oh my God, you look like Andy Warhol.
Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry to say this, but yes, you do a little bit.
Oh my God, you look just like Andy Warhol. And I went, oh. So I went out that day and I bought a turtleneck shirt and I went as Andy Warhol. And that's all I did.
Superb. Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to ask you, from your career, what has been your favorite role? You've got so many to choose from. I pulled out The Shield, CSI, Law and Order, and you've also got Dawson's Creek.
that wouldn't be my favorite. That would not.
But there's so many Dawson Creek fans out there.
No. I think Dawson's Creek was a tremendous show for, you know, 14 to 20-year-old girls, but it was, you know, there's a relevancy factor. Let me be clear. I mean, I loved doing the show and I loved those kids on the show, and it was a great experience. And I was on that for over 9 seasons, actually.
Yeah.
I think I was only in 4 of the seasons, but it was over the entire stretch of it. I think I was in the second to the last show of the series.
Yeah.
And so I got to meet a whole new crop of, you know, Dawson's Creek kids. And but there was a relevancy factor. It was like, they were all, when I first got on the show, Michelle Williams was 16, I think, and Katie was 17, and Josh and James were 18. So I mean, I wasn't relevant in their world. It was like, it was the old guy hanging around, and so that, that it was certainly a great thing to do, but I wouldn't put it in the birth of my favorite. Among them would be The Shield. That was fun. That was an amazing show to do. And for instance, like the executive producer on that, Scott Brazil, who sadly passed away, I made the comment to him at one point that this is one of my favorite shows to do. And he said, a lot of the guest actors say that. Why do you think that is? And I go, I don't know. I'll get back with you. And I thought about it, and I went back to him and I said, you know what it is? Most of the time when you're a guest actor on a show, first of all, no matter how hard they try to make you feel like you're part of the family, it only makes you feel like you've been invited to somebody else's Christmas or somebody else's Thanksgiving.
Right.
They didn't plan on having you there. You don't have any presents. They feel weird about it. You feel weird about it. And so it always feels like that a bit, but The Shield wasn't. It was like you were part of the deal. And part of that was because also when you're a guest actor, you're window dressing for the principals, for the regulars to do the really cool shit.
Right.
I said, Scott, here we get to do the cool shit. I got to do some of the coolest things on The Shield. And that was fun. I think the Tom Hanks experience, just because of the experiences that I had, that I'm standing in the desert next to a guy who walked on the moon, and
that's crazy.
I'm working with Tom Hanks, and just the whole, and I also met a couple of my longtime friends now from that, a guy named Brett Cullen, and so that, but I've fallen in love with them all, though. I mean, some things I've done in a theater for 48 people, has also been one of my favorite things to do,
Yeah, that sounds good. Now we're coming out of lockdown. What are your plans now? What you got coming up?
Well, I mean, I've put myself on tape for a few projects that, we haven't heard yet, but like, I think that, there's a good possibility, but I signed in NDAs, so I can't say anything about what they are. Not unless I want to really lose the job.
Sure.
But I am doing a proof of concept film up in San Francisco, and there isn't a hard date yet, but it's this really cool. It's this young Egyptian filmmaker named Amir Yusuf, and I love the role. I play one of those sort of lawyers that advertises on bus benches kind of thing, and I'm an immigration lawyer, and then this young Egyptian kid who's trying to seek asylum, and I couldn't really be bothered too much, but then this odd relationship is formed, and he winds up, well, I can't give too much away, but like it winds up being an odyssey of sorts, and I get sucked into it. In the beginning, it seems like a mercenary act, but truth be told, it's like I just somehow wind up strangely caring about this kid. But so it's a great role, and it's going to be shooting in about a month, which is kind of why my hair is this long, because in the description it says this 60, 65-year-old guy with silver hair down to his shoulders. So I've just been letting it grow for that.
Superb. May I wish you all the best for the rest of this year. And thank you so much for sharing your history and memories of Mindhunter.
Oh, do I have time to plug something?
Oh, yeah, of course. Absolutely.
I have a production company that I started 7 years ago. When I was reading the tea leaves, I realized that the movie-going experience, in my view, was going away, and but definitely morphing. And I wanted to try to get ahead of it. And even though I realized that like I said before, there's a relevancy factor, but I started a production company called, it's called Detroit Street Films, because I live on Detroit Street in Los Angeles. And there's also an adjunct reading series, which is called the Station House Reading Series, because we would meet every week in a fire station before COVID in Hollywood and read these scripts. And we've made, a dozen short films now. And we also do a group poem every meeting, and then we encourage people to make a film out of the poem, like so it's like a complete collaboration, whatever. And anybody can see those if they want to go on to our YouTube channel, which is Detroit Street Films with no spaces and street spelled out, and you can see the films. But that occupies most of my time and my concentration. So I just wanted to throw that up.
I'll go and grab some links and put it on my blog to alongside this. So no problem. I'll run that. All the best with that too. That sounds really amazing. I might try and do some filming myself.
Listen, we want to expand this thing to be like an international. That was the original plan. I want it to be like this umbrella where people come in and at least follow the formula and then put it on our YouTube channel, and then they can do whatever they want with it too.
Right.
Yeah, I would love for people to do that. We haven't, we've got it. It's so far it's across the country, but that's as far as it's gotten.
Okay. Well, you never know. This could be the start of the British invasion.
I would love it. I would give anything for that.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gareth, and speak to you soon. Bye. Thank you for joining me on The Mighty Dragon. See you soon.